Happy St. Patty's Day, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. As a man of Irish descent myself, I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all wore green and didn't get pinched, right? I hope you didn't get pinched or anything uh, by any of your coworkers or anything. But apparently, it was brought to my attention in the Indie Comics Empire Discord that Liam had made a live stream titled "Let's See If I Had to Obliterate EV Comics Now," I guess. So apparently he's checking out my review, which is funny. I don't know why he's doing this. I don't know what purpose he could have from doing this other than just, I guess, making himself look more like a lol cow. But anyways, he wants to do this. And I want to explain something before I even hit play on this stream. By the way, he's still streaming now. I'm just stream sniping him. But I want to explain this right now before I go any further with it. The point of me doing that review is to see if Liam can put his money where his mouth is, because he'll rant about people, he'll make a scene and be belligerent and all this kind of stuff, just without end, just constantly just doing it. And I wanted to give him a chance to put his money where his mouth is. It's a similar thing with the Brute thing, right? Same thing with that. The Wheelers were trashing Van Sciver and without end. Sorry about that. And saying that his book shouldn't take this long, and I agree. And they ended up making a parody. At first, I was against it. I was like, I think this is kind of a waste of time. But after they released the product pretty quickly, and I'm like, you know what? Let's check it out. Let's see if they can put their money where their mouth is. And I think the comic was okay. It's not exactly my type of comic, and I had some critiques for it, and I made honest critiques about it. And you know what I got from Mike? You know what I got from Mindy? Honest, acceptance of the criticism, and totally being humble about it. They did not berate me for anything I said, and they were totally chill about everything I said in that video, and doing that basically got me to review some other comics of theirs, right? Or at least another comic of theirs. Dang, I can't think of the name of it. It's escaping me right now. I got work brain right now. I'm still in work mode as far as my brain goes. But Puppet, that's what it is. But that, Mike sent that to me for free. And I told him, I said, just because you sent it for free, I'm still going to give an honest review. And he was chill with that. And I gave my honest review, my honest thoughts about it. I thought it was pretty good. And, yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to extend to Liam, right? That's what I wanted to extend to Liam here. And what ended up, by the way, the thumbnail to this stream is from FFS last night. And speaking of FFS, another funny thing about that is I did a stream with them a couple weeks ago now, I guess, doing a more updated review of Kakashi Murder Dolls. And this is because I realized that why some of the things in the background look weird is because they're either 3D assets or they're previously drawn images that have been placed into the background without much care for the lighting and stuff like that. And I mean, you can do that. I have no problem with you doing that. And I honestly have no problem if you make a 3D asset, if you want to use that 3D asset in the background. It doesn't bother me at all. And especially since you're the creator of it, right? As long as you make the lighting look good, right? As long as you match the lighting of the 3D asset or the previously drawn thing, because I'll do this all the time. I'll draw characters in action poses like running into battle or throwing a punch or throwing an object or something like that. And I can put that in a scene and then use it for something else in a different angle or whatever, or a different facial expression. But what I do is I change the lighting to match the scene. I have, it's nothing complicated. Most of the time for the lighting, if I want to change the lighting, I'll put an overlay layer with a color to match evening or night. I'll use a dark blue or purple. For evening, I'll use orange. If it's stormy, I'll use a dark blue, and stuff like that. It's not that hard to do, and the way that the stuff was put in the backgrounds in Kakashi Murder Dolls, some things, it just made it look odd. It just made it look like it didn't quite belong. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with this. I fast forwarded to the time, I put it on 1.5 times speed, and I fast forward to the time where he starts actually watching my videos. So I have no idea what he says. I'm about to find out live with you guys, I guess. Doesn't really say anything else. It just says Liam Gray. So unless somehow I am mistaken, this is something entirely birthed from the loins of Liam Gray himself. And the reason why I'm mistaken is because he doesn't put Yuka's name on here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. And I want to start off by talking about the art. So I'll go ahead and click this. Well, first of all, 10,000 views on just volume 1. This is back in 2023. I guess he hasn't uploaded it since. Pretty good. But speaking of views, Lil Miss Steel, ladies and gentlemen, 13,000 views on the first volume. That's pretty good. Awesome. I just got to plug my comic in front of all your viewers, Liam. Awesome.
God is good to Liam. I'm not even going to give my Japanese pen name away to show what my webtoon's doing. What I'm going to do is just go back over to here. Oh, it's already closed. It's already closed. It's already gone. Now, here we go. Go back over to here. Can I exit here? Yeah, close. Ah, hello. Hello. You flexing on me, brother?
642,000. It's not necessarily a flex. I just wanted to point out. I just wanted to do a plug for Lil Miss Steel.
You trust what everyone else says, and you don't think for yourself. Let's see how long that holds true.
And the rest of it's also pretty good. The rest of it's obviously like your first volume is always going to have like the most views, and then everything else is going to have less, unless for some reason you have a specific volume that's just way better than the others later on, which is rare, but sometimes that happens. Yeah, you guys have been like killing it with the views.
I'm going to try to just ignore the chat.
Some of the stuff is over a year old, and obviously it's got more views than some of the most recent stuff. But you guys have really been killing it. I mean, the rate that episode volume 6 has been getting views is even higher than episode 5 as far as like how fast it's going. I don't know if volume 6 will overtake volume 5. That would be weird. But certainly it's been growing faster, so I appreciate that. I also appreciate FFS for featuring my video again on their podcast Sunday for CG Church. Thank you guys so much for that. And yes, Cynic, your podcast isn't worth watching since you agreed that Liam should be on the show. No, I'm kidding.
What the fuck's he talking about? I'm not on any podcast with Cynic.
But anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way, and thank you guys so much for the support. Now that I'm done grifting, let's get back to the actual comic review at hand. Yes, this is Kakashi Murder Dolls, and I want to go ahead and get started with the art. Just talk about that and get that kind of out of the way, because for the most part, I don't really have anything negative to say about the art. However, if you look at it, you got some promotional pages here. It says it's 50 pages at the bottom, but in reality, it's more like 40 pages because there's so much extra pages of stuff. I mean, all of this doesn't have anything to do with the actual like interior of the book. Like all of this is just...
It has a lot to do with the interior of the book. It has a tremendous amount to do with the interior of the book. What are you talking about? This is why... you know how I say like none of these motherfuckers are literate? Look at this. This is the underlying theme of the series in the book here. This essence.
What I mean is it has nothing to do with the actual like active story in the book. Yes, obviously the material that's on the bonus pages is like character backgrounds and details and stuff like that, concept art, all that kind of stuff. Obviously it pertains to the comic. What I'm saying is that it doesn't actually like have to do with the immediate story. Now, some of it has like some of the same information that you'll find in the story, right? But it's not necessary to have all those bonus pages for you to enjoy the story of the comic. That's what I'm saying, and maybe I should have clarified it better.
Everything I do, I open it that way. Which allows me to open into a double-page spread. That's by Liam. I hope you love it. The contents page, which should have been over here, but it is what it is. Then, because when I had this over here, it was fucked. But anyway, here, I have extra details, like the Corpus State and the Pyro Incorporation. The Corpus State, these might just look like little random scribbles, but even just studying this will give you contrast. I have ability score attributes for the characters. Most importantly, I have little profile write-ups, as if it's from the company itself, talking about what they do, including the name of their weapons, their tech, their interests, who they are, all of that stuff,
Maybe you should explain that in the story of your comic.
All of that stuff, and this is scaled. This is scaled to all of my stuff in all my other books, so you know how strong everyone is.
And that's cool. I don't think this stuff is bad. I don't think this stuff like shouldn't be in there.
This is so that people know how to read the fucking book because they're retarded, and I got endless fucking complaints that no one knew how to read my books. And then this here is the opening chapter page, which is a giant fucking metaphor and Easter egg to a whole bunch of extra stuff and symbolism.
And I like that.
But
I even said it was good. I said it on the FFS stream recently.
And
the map is fine. I don't have a problem with any of this. But it's not necessary, or at least bonus pages, in my opinion, should not be necessary to read for you to understand the story. The story should speak for itself.
Dino King and everything else, you'll be able to use this to locate where this is in the world. And all of these locations have specific things in the series. This right up here is the national anthem of the country. You got the map scale. You've got
I'm sorry, I don't care about the national anthem. It has nothing to do with like the actual story
where
of it.
the Marauder camps are, the radiation zones, all of this stuff to inform the series. All of that tells you by looking at it, oh, look at this. There's radiation all over the place here. There are Marauder camps here. There are certain places that are field stations that are safe. There are other places that are the Zed Initiative. You know, also the Min Min lights are mentioned right there. And, you know, like no one ever mentioned that. Look, we got Min Min right there. Boop. Like all of this stuff is relevant if you look at it to inform the rest of the series. What is coming? Remember, this is a first chapter. So what do we know already by flipping through it? Okay, they're in cool
My first chapter did not have any bonus pages. And from that first chapter alone, you can understand the characters.
action poses. There's a military theme here. We've got details and information about the characters. She is a lower combat rank than her brother. Then down here, the next thing that you see is
Granted, my comics world building is not as like unique. And that's one of the things I praised about Kakashi Murder Dolls, is that the world building was cool. I thought some of the aspects of the crows and the scarecrow type of thing, like I thought that was a fun idea.
is her brother being not in a cool combat pose, but being objectified by some rich bitch under an umbrella, forced to clean her pool. You know, like it is a objectifying thing. Like in book 2, he's gonna be on a stripper pole. You know what I mean? For a bunch of women throwing money at him, looking like he hates his life. This is what we're doing with this character. We are. You'll see. But I guess rather than looking and trying to understand what you're looking at and form ideas based on what's written there, you can just skip over that and say it doesn't.
Are you gonna look at that page and be like, no, his bulge should be bigger here. Draw his bulge bigger.
Even matter. It doesn't matter. It's just extra little things. Okay, cool. All right, cool.
Just like, you know, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extra pages of stuff on this, which I don't mind.
Has this guy ever printed a book? I'm not saying this to like be in cunt.
Yes,
right?
I've been printing my book since let's see, January of last year, 2025. I've been printing the book, and do I have one up here right now? I think I got them all downstairs. Yeah, that's. I don't think I have any of my stuff. But regardless, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need that stuff in a book. Is it nice to have? Yes. But for the story, for the actual story of the book, the story should speak for itself, and let the bonus material be extra. If I put anything bonus, like if I put bonus pages at the end of it, I will put it at the end. Because the thing people want to get to whenever they read the new comic is they want to read what's going on with the story. So I have like a couple of pages of like buffer. I have like an interior page on like the back of the cover that has like a little blurb about what EV Comics is and what Lil Miss Steel is. And then I've got like another page that's like, it's usually some kind of QR code that takes you to my shop and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And then the comic starts. Because for me, and especially for like what I'm doing, you know, I want to get right into it. I want to get right into the story.
Printed a book. Like, does he know about InDesign and laying your book out? You know, I always start out with a double page spread. I always start out with a chapter page.
And by the way, I never said this was a bad thing. I never said it was a bad thing.
With a single opening.
I'm going to skip over this because I think this is.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but it definitely is more like a 40-page comic than or manga, I should say, than 50. But I want to go ahead and talk about the art style itself. It's manga. It's very much manga. If you've seen literally any manga ever, this looks a lot like it. And if you don't like manga, then you probably won't jive with this art style. If you do like manga, then this would not be offensive to you at all. You will very much like this style. And you know what? Like a lot of people. It's something that's not for them. Sometimes it's for them. For me, I find it okay. I don't find this art to be bad. I find it to be a little generic, I suppose. Like it looks like manga and nothing else.
I don't think that's very fair. Look at the proportions, the weight of the muscles in the arms. Look at these.
Yeah, it looks manga. I've read manga before, Liam. I know what manga looks like. It looks like manga.
Broad chest. Look at the women. Like the faces. Yeah, they're pretty traditional manga faces. But like, look at the bodies. Look at the anatomy. Like if you look at most average manga. Oh, look, there's Yuka standing in a line. There's Yuka just standing there on page. Oh, I miss that girl. I miss that tiny girl. There she is there too. But like, But yeah, like no, this is not just a generic manga. Like if you have a look, you'll see that like the anatomy is much more closer to Western superhero stuff than traditional anime, especially in the modern manga sort of scene where everyone's a skinny little bitch boy and they're afraid to have muscles.
There's even in the mangas where there's main characters that are skinny, there are still characters in that manga that are bulked up. There are still characters that are bulky to contrast with that. I'm referring to that. The characters look whatever, man. I'm not even gonna.
And even stuff like Andrew Rowland's book, Andrew Rowland's comic, looks like manga in a way, but it doesn't quite look exactly like manga. Like it has like a certain uniqueness to it.
I'll stand by that.
I think sets it apart from what your traditional manga looks like. This just straight up just looks like a manga, which is in a way its own form. I would say good. That's a compliment that I'm giving. But the compliment that it looks like manga comes at the cost of it having its own unique imprint, and I don't really feel like it has that. Now, the next thing I want to say about the art.
What other manga in the world, by the way, just putting this out there, has an Australian, Sparky in it? All of these Australian themes and Australian energy. And like,
I'm not talking about the imagery. I'm talking about the art style. I'm talking about the art style, Liam.
Like what has Mecha these days?
What has Mecha these days?
A little confusing because whenever you look at these pages up here and
they're standing in front of the black track, which they drove in on. There's the ramp. The robot's standing in front of it. It's solid black. This guy's got his back to it. You can see the metal plates.
Where are the shadows? Where are the shadows from the mech? Where's the shadows from the mech and the people standing there on that top panel, Liam?
I'm waiting for it. Like I realized I can't show you what he's talking about, but I can actually show you the original book. I'm an idiot. Look. Broken Roads. I can't see what you guys see. Here we go. So, Broken Roads, the black track, right? This guy.
There's still no shadows on it. And my apologies, it's the middle panel, not the top panel. Still no shadows underneath the giant mech.
Standing in front of the black track, taking the crowd in that's standing in front of it. The area that he is confused about is here. One second. God, is here. But if you actually look at the image, you can see that there's a whole bunch of people loaded up into the truck behind them. Yeah, and here they're clearly loading people up. There's more people, right? It's all day. It's still all day.
Yeah, but it bounces back between extremely dark backgrounds and extremely bright skies. It is a little confusing. Now I can understand it if I go back and look through it. I can understand it, and I did when I was going back and looking through it. Yes. But I initially, on this first part here, when I was reading this, I had to stop my, I guess, immersion and go back and look at this and say, is this during the night or during the day? And then I found out, like, okay, it's during the day. But it caused me to have to exit the immersion. I'm going to skip.
Or is there, a misunderstanding on their front that no one else had? But now I've got to redraw the entire book and redo the entire book because someone else didn't take the time to look at the metal-plated panels behind the head of the guy in the next panel.
You don't have to redraw the entire book. I did not say that. I'm just saying that the pages, the backgrounds, were swapping back and forth between a day background and a dark background. Maybe do a little bit of a panel where they're halfway in and halfway out of a building or something.
Fair enough if you felt this way, but it's not a legitimate criticism. I'm sorry.
It is.
You can see the metal plates there.
It is my experience reading the book. You can't say it's not legitimate criticism.
Then you see this guy and he's recruiting people, taking them in. So what's to misunderstand?
The time of day.
It's pretty much daytime, it seems. But then there's this page that looks like it's at night, and this page that looks like it's at night. And I think they're doing it to apply some kind of menace to this this character who only shows like one of his eyes, and he's obviously very scarred up and stuff. I think it's too.
He definitely has interest in it. What he actually has interest in is doing damage to me. That's my suspicion, like the rest of these people. Interest enough to try and find fault. But we'll find out. He said he's got some good things to say. And look, this might be a genuine...
I literally started this stream by saying I wanted to give Liam the benefit of a doubt. I wanted to give him a chance to put his money where his mouth is and show off a really great comic that outshines everything else in the indie comic scene. And that I did not get. I went in with this as open-minded as I possibly could have been.
One mistake, but that's a black track. You can see the metal paneling You can see all the people lined up behind him.
And keep in mind that I have not said that the artwork here is bad. I'm just making criticisms, small criticisms at that.
This woman doesn't get much airtime, but Yuka had this big idea for what she wanted to do with her, and I loved her design. I still, to this day, really love her design. But moving on.
Applied menace, but all of a sudden it goes from being, broad daylight outside to being very dark. And maybe it's because they're going inside this building, but even the building has like lights at the top and everything. It's very clearly there's.
Oh my God, he thinks they're in a building. He didn't read it, did he?
This looks like a building
on the FF Church review too. It's like, can the people who read the book actually do the review? And I was like, why the fuck do you have people on panel that didn't read the book? Is there any attempt at professionalism here at all? Is there even a fucking modicum of professionalism here? It's ridiculous.
For me to even pull up this on screen, I would have had to read the book.
Media literacy in the gutter. There is an exposition story handholding the illiterate morons thing. Opening exposition to inform you about the world and why it is. Here is the reality. Here's the grim reality of the situation these guys find themselves in, and a family being destroyed and taken in by these people. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Are the bad guys worse than the monsters destroying the people? And then here's how and then the exposition of here's how the world got this way. And then 10 years later, here we are. Look at what the world's like. All these years later, that's too. Like they criticize me for that. They're like, we want to go along for the journey. It's like, oh, cool. So you want to follow Jack getting raised by I forgot my own character's name, by Rob. You want to follow Jack and
I feel that I forget my own character's name sometimes.
Scarlet as children being raised.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that if in a flashback, if just in a flashback from brief moments. Yes, you want to know why? What's the Viking Vinland Saga? You want to know why Vinland Saga is so good? Because you follow that kid's journey from when he starts off being like the sole survivor of his family and taken on board this Viking ship and raised alongside Vikings and becomes a warrior, all for the sole purpose of killing the guy who killed his family. That show is so good. That anime is so good. And the reason why is because you get to follow along his journey as he grows older.
Well, here's the reality. That story will be revealed in flashbacks.
Okay. Well, maybe you should have done that in this comic where we're introduced to the mentor, Rob, so that I can feel bad whenever Rob gets killed. That was my whole point of the criticism, was that I felt nothing when the old man died because I didn't feel any attachment to him because he failed to get me to be attached to the character by giving me a reason to care about the character.
Little bits of that story are glimpsed briefly through Mahat's Measure. It's the whole premise of Kakashi Murder Doll's successor, right? Well, Kakashi's successor. Let me go over here for a second. It's like, this is the story. Oh, we wanted to know all this. Yeah, I know you did. I wrote it so you wanted to, because that's the story you're going to be reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously. But maybe we could get a little more information about the guy that you're going to kill off for a shock value. Maybe it would be more shocking and more impactful if I cared.
That's the story you're meant to be reading and learning about. Where can I find this? Where is it? This is not final or finished artwork, by the way. This is still.
I don't care.
It's a giant mega mecha tank, which isn't focusing right because I'm out of camera. But get the book, read the book. And if you can't tell the difference between them walking inside a vehicle that they're all being marched into, they're literally being marched up a ramp here towards the big interior.
Can ramps not be attached to buildings?
I don't know. Here we go.
Showing that there's lights here, but all of a sudden the lighting will just change.
And also, it doesn't matter if it's a building or a vehicle or not. It doesn't matter. It still was confusing for me because it looked like it was daytime and then nighttime.
It's a dark. It's a pitch black even on this panel here. And I found that a little confusing, but not too bad. Not too confusing. I did personally, and this is my fault, whenever she was holding her stomach here from some kind of wound, I thought for a second that this guy had shot her because he's got this gun here, and this dude says, hold it, and then all of a sudden she's got this wound and he's pointing a gun at her, right? I thought that he took a shot at her here.
Well, do you think that maybe if you shot her, I would have drawn a pen, or had you could draw a pen?
You let me finish, you retard.
The gun.
Let me finish. I'm explaining it.
It's good that he knew.
So there was obvious setup and sign for that. I'm not going to fault that. That was just me personally. I didn't realize that's what.
How about instead of faulting it, you go, that was good of Liam. That was good storytelling. It's good.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying when I made this review. I said it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It was my fault for not noticing that. What's up, Nomad? Happy St. Patty's Day.
That they thought of that. It's good that he.
I did read it. Scott's MT. I said I wasn't gonna pay attention to the chat, but I did read it, and I had said by me admitting that I read something wrong proves that I read it.
You could foreshadowed this in the previous panels. Instead, going, we're not going to fault it. How about go? That was good setup. That was good setup. And if you read everything, you'll know what's going on. This is about power.
Did I not?
Point of reference.
Hold on.
Realize on my initial look through was that she was holding her stomach here and holding it there, so there was obvious setup and sign for that.
I literally said there's obvious setup, and he just ignores it. Who's a jerky responding to? This is Liam Gray, the koala king of Australia. He is the southern god of manga. All titles given by himself. Notorious lolcow in the indie comic scene. He cannot respond to criticism at all. I made a review of his comic because I wanted to give him the benefit of a doubt and say, okay, let's see if his comic's actually really good. This comic is free, so I figure why not check it out. And by the way, the reason why I did not do Dino King or Xenotype or Wonder Boy Island or whatever it's called is because for the first two, I didn't want to give Liam my address. And for the last one, it's not out yet, and it hasn't been out for 5 years.
I'm not going to fault that. That was just me personally. I didn't realize that's what...
How about instead of faulting it, you go, that was good of Liam.
I did. I literally did. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward.
He just wants to get to his wife. He's like, Barbara. Like, nothing he can do.
What's going on? You couldn't see the blood up here.
That's right.
Panels,
because they're trying to
which was, I believe, intentional.
Yes.
But yeah, I just got confused with that. That's a personal thing. That's not a nitpick or a critique at all. That's just me being stupid and not realizing that. Now, the only other thing about the art that I want to talk about is there's two places where things just sort of feel like they are there, like they've been dropped into a scene and they don't necessarily fit it. And that's this page right here with this mech. This mech is really cool looking. I like the art on this. I like everything about it as far as its design.
It's a Grim Reaper mech, right?
Okay, cool.
Oh my god. There's a tractor here. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Its pose is very
confirmed.
menacing.
He lives on a farm.
It kind of, I can't quite describe it. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Maybe it's because it doesn't have a clear shadow underneath it, and neither do the people over here. But
I forgot that I pointed that out.
It feels like these characters were just kind of dragged and dropped onto the page instead of actually being part of the scene. And it's again, I very rarely critique art because it's so subjective. This I feel like is a little more objective here, where there's not really a clear spatial aspect to.
And I am probably guilty of the same thing. And this is the thing, this is why I don't do a whole lot of art criticism. Because I know if someone gets mad enough, like Liam, he can look at my stuff and say, "Oh, you didn't do this," and it just gets nowhere, right? It just gets nowhere. But if I'm doing a review and something stands out to me, I gotta mention it. Right? And if Liam pulls up my comic and points out some flaws where I can genuinely see where he's coming from, and I see it's an actually good criticism, then I'll fix it. That's how you respond to criticism. You listen and you do it.
For me, right? Yeah, that was nice. But no, I'll go my own way. So yeah, I mean, Yuka was putting white stroke around everything. You know what I mean? As for oh, this looks like it's from somewhere else. It's not. This was a mecha design that we designed. This is the Big Bang Boy.
I wasn't saying it's from another source. I'm saying it looks like you drew the mech, or you could drew the mech, and then took the artwork and just plopped it on the scene without trying to adjust the lighting or anything.
All of the stuff is named after Grim Reapers and fucking weird stripper pseudo sort of links to it, where it's sort of semi-sexualized. But yeah, so this is the Big Bang Boy. He's got a big old railgun on his arm there. A little bit inspired by the Glitter Boy from Palladium. My boys over at Kevin Smith had a Grim Reaper designed robot, because the Kakashi and Norco and all of that have this death motif. So you'll see that's why they've got scythes and other stuff like that.
Yeah. I got that. I got that.
A little bit of heavy metal, I suppose. I would have had.
And I mentioned that it was cool
because he would have got what I'm putting down on the page, I think. But that's off the table now. That's never happening. So it's a pity. But yeah, so yeah, no, this was not taken from everywhere. This isn't a 3D asset. This is literally just the stroke tool over this panel, so that when you're looking at, because we're working in shades of black, right? There's a lot of black in this book, which is...
I don't think did I ever even mention the white stroke around anything? I don't think I did, but I don't think it's a bad look. I don't think it's a bad thing, and it's a common thing that I've seen in other mangas. It's it's not bad to have the stroke. It's bad to not have the shadows and the shading to make it match the scene. To me, it looks like it's just there. It doesn't look like it's part of the
Again,
scene
Norco,
naturally.
Noir, Noir means black. So it just pushes this forward off the black track, which is the same color, the same tone, you know.
Which I do a similar thing with my stuff. Like it's not a white outline, but I do have like the outlines of the characters are thicker. Like they're thick black lines, and they're like usually like twice as thick as the inner lines or more. And the reason why I do that is because the characters can stand out in front of the backgrounds. But what I don't do is have their lighting not match the scene. I try to match the lighting, like the shading of the scene, like the color grading of the scene. I try and match that. And am I perfect? Am I going to slip up? Yes, of course. Of course I'm going to slip up. And if someone points it out to me, I'll fix it.
And makes it look like it's not just left. Because if it wasn't shaded, it looks not colored in. If we leave white, like a lot of manga do, a lot of manga would just leave the background behind the bird here white, which is fine. Except then the energy blast, well, that's meant to be the rail round, exploding the bird wouldn't be as clearly as visible. And compared to the rest of the book, which has clearly got gray tones all throughout it, it looks off. We can pull it off a bit with the alabaster skin of the protagonists here. But you'll see that even, because again, everyone's tan because it's Australia, but these two are not for reasons that...
Is Liam tan? Liam does not look like a very tan individual.
Yeah, may be relevant later, but you know...
To where they are in the shot. And it just, I noticed it right away, and I thought it was...
I'm getting 11 more pages, possibly 15 more pages.
Skip.
Like the harvest. No, we're just fucking betrayed. It's always the same thing. Like
Oh, we're back.
Do anything for her. Even when she time sit down and work. I promise him. It's like
Never mind, we're not back.
Right for me to take. Look what this.
I'm looking for
like,
for
what is
me
this
in the picture to move, and then I'll know he's actually moved on.
You can't do it. It's got to be a string. It is okay. Mad Magazine ego when it comes to the word that anyone says. Once they go, no, how do
He's interacting with chat, so I can't be mad.
that? So cool, love it. I think that he is a. This is
the placement.
Okay, here we go.
Frame here.
Yeah,
and some good things here. This establishes
giving me
early
a
on
remix.
that
Did
it's
you
in
hear that?
Australia because you see these kangaroos, right?
Mhm.
I immediately knew that before I even read the dialogue, and trust me, the dialogue is very Australian. But the placement of the mech, I think, is just a little, and even the people, I would say, is just a little, just I don't know. It just doesn't really feel quite like that they're in the scene that they're supposed to be in. It feels like they've just been dragged and dropped in.
It's the white stroke around the character.
No, it's not. It's the shadows. It's the lack of shadows.
Better shadow work would have been nice
And look, I'm not.
around the character. You know, I understand.
Um,
Better shadow work would have been nice.
Did he just accept criticism? Why did he go on a rant talking about it?
and look, I'm not saying that like you can't take artwork that's like larger, that's like more zoomed in or something, then put it in a scene, another scene elsewhere, and make it work. I'm not saying you can't do that because I've done that. I've taken like artwork that I've done before and like changed the facial expression or changed something about like the way the hair flows and stuff like that, and used it in a different scene. You can do that. It's totally fine. But I will say that right there especially felt just a little bit rough. And now I'm going to show one more thing. I'm going to show one more thing here, and that's this scene here. This character in the background is just a little. I'm not. Again, it's hard to kind of put into words, but I feel like this character. And tell me if this makes sense. It feels like this character was drawn. This masked guy with all the armor and everything. It feels like this guy was drawn on a much closer zoom into him. It feels like it was like let me see if I can just zoom in. Yeah, here we go. It feels like he was on like a full page or like a much larger panel where you could see more detail because he's got a lot of shading detail to him. And
she just did it like that. She just did it like that. They're like maybe she zoomed in too much, but no, he's just the corpse soldier. I got criticism for this too, but again, it's the corpse soldier. That's him there.
Hold on one second.
Norco Stitchworks disposable soldier.
Hold on. I'm gonna show something that I may not have put in the initial review, but I realized after the fact when I was talking on the FFS stream. 100%, it is the same exact artwork from another page that was zoomed in more. So you come here on this page right here, right? And again, I'm not saying you can't do this. I'm not saying you can't reuse art, but you got to make it look like it belongs to the scene. This doesn't look bad. Some people, Cynic would argue it does look bad. I would argue it doesn't. I think he looks fine in this scene. There's a shadow behind him. It looks okay. It looks fine. But then you scroll down to this, and there's too much detail. There's too much detail, and maybe the shading on him, and there's no shadow behind him this time. There's just the shadow from the light of the doorway here, the saloon door that's going through here. And the floor, it looks fine. The wall looks fine to me. It doesn't bother me. I don't care that the background outside doesn't have any detail. It doesn't need to. It's not the focal point. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me is just that this dude is very clearly taken from here, and with all the same detail and the shading on the armor and everything right on top of here. I'll zoom in for extra vigilance. You can see all of the soft shading on his armor is the exact same here as it is up here. And it looks fine here where it's more zoomed in. But when you take that and you shrink it down, it starts to look weird. It starts to look too detailed for this to be in the background. And honestly, all you had to do, or Liam from an editor's perspective had to do, is just say, remove the shading layer, or remove the soft shade, the soft, texture or whatever off of the armor, and make it look simpler. And that would have been fine. And I would not have even noticed it. It would not have looked out of place. It would have been fine to me. That's all he had to do. And it's weird because he's kind of accepting criticism, but also like arguing why it's not fair criticism.
Kakashi corpse soldiers were the first disposable defense force.
I don't care about
heretical
the
targeting
lore for this
fear and
video's
self-preservation.
Ground, it doesn't really work because he's distracting. I mean, he's got this white glow around him, and the characters tend to have that white outline around them anyway.
I did mention the white glow,
and I believe that's the style since it's like that everywhere.
Yeah.
But the something about the shading, something about the amount of detail on this background character that's not really important to the scene.
And here's something too: not every character needs that white background. This is just me thinking here. Because that guy is not an active participant of the scene right now, because he's not part of the scene, I don't think he needs the white stroke around the character. I think you could have him just blend in with the background, because he effectively is part of the background, right? He could have been just a suit of armor with no one in it, and it would have been fine if they didn't give him the white stroke. Pranvad, what's up, EV Comics? How come you don't have more viewers, dog? I'm a comic creator first and streamer/reviewer second, I suppose. If I was a streamer first, I would post and stream every day, or at least more consistently every day. But honestly, I would rather just be listening to music and drawing, or listening to like a podcast and drawing than do a stream. But I mean, I've done art streams before. I can do more, but yeah, it's also probably just because with just one guy, you can only be so entertaining. I like whenever Van Skyver does the art streams. I like whenever he does that. But Van Skyver just by himself, without talking about Trashcast, without the Trashcast topics or actively talking about a video he's watching or whatever, is not as entertaining whenever he's just drawing, right? And as much as I like those streams, I like that he's doing it. I like that he's shifted more focus to that to finish the comics that he needs. It's basically just, it's a little more boring, and that's probably the same thing with me. But this stream is more entertaining because I'm rebutting to Liam, I guess. What's your comic concept elevator pitch? Pitch me. Okay, a concept elevator pitch. Lil Miss Steel is about a girl who is the daughter of two superheroes, and she doesn't want to be a superhero. But circumstances kind of force her to take up the role and start to learn how to use her powers, half powers given from her mother, and the gadgets left behind in her dad's old base. She must learn to become a superhero while also playing in a band with her friends, and also trying to save her mother from the main antagonist, death metal. That's the pitch. That's the pitch. And I can talk more about it forever, but that's basically the pitch. I liked your commentary on the downfall of Rippaverse. The Rippaverse videos make more views than everything else I do, and on one hand, it's frustrating, but on the other hand, like there's the devil on my shoulder that's like, yes, do more Rippaverse videos, yes. And then there's the angel on my shoulder that's like, no, focus on doing the comic book stuff, right? Protagonist is a girl, yes, the protagonist is a girl. I did the main protagonist of 2 of my prior stuff was dudes, and I mean there was girl characters in there that were like side protagonists, like not the main focus, but like had a lot of focus too. And I decided I wanted to do a girl for this one. There's also the other reason why that is, and this is kind of funny. There was a really bad comic that came out several years ago that was called I Am Not Starfire and has a very similar premise. And I thought that the premise sounded pretty cool, but the comic was just garbage. It was total garbage. And I said, you know what? What if I take the premise, make my own characters, and make my own world, and flesh it out from there? That was my main thing, man. But yeah, your criticism is valid about EVS, but I joined his channel for his commentary, so it doesn't matter to me. I did buy Red Xbox or Red EXbox though. I don't really care what you buy. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if you watch EVS either. I mean, I watch EVS from time to time. You know, you can be a critic of someone, but also still be a fan of their content. You know what I mean? Like, I think Van Sciver's books are good, but I can still criticize the fact that they're super late. And just like I can criticize the Rippaverse as a business and the Rippaverse's worst comics, but I can also praise the best Rippaverse comics. You know what I mean? Like Alpha Core, I'll stand by it. Alpha Core is a good comic. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it.
It just kind of, I don't know, it just feels a little out of place. It feels like you could have either drawn him at much lower detail or used, like if my theory is correct, that Liam drew him on a much larger frame. And just
I don't know why I'm explaining the same points that I made in this video. I'm explaining it like I need to re-explain it, but Liam's just going to play it and do that anyway.
Down and put him in the background. Maybe just
I'm going to try and not do that as much. I'm going to try and make this
quick. He doesn't look so weird back there. He doesn't look so distracting back there. And that, you know, that's really, as far as the art goes, that's my only real critiques.
No way, dog.
The rest of it is just style preference. And I'm fine with the style. Again, it is a bit generic manga looking. There's not really too much unique about it to Liam. It very much is.
Yeah, he posted a correction down here that I was not the artist on this project, but then claims this is what also got to be up my ass. Claims I didn't credit Yuka, who was rushed to get this done, showing that he didn't read anything in the book, showing that he didn't read her foreword, her afterword, or anything. He just read what he found
on the page of the comic on this Manga Plus Creators. If you go here, oh no, hold on. I went on Liam Gray's thing. No, I want to go to Kakashi Murder Dolls. Take me to the Kakashi. Yes, okay, thank you. Liam Gray. There's nothing here immediately that says Yuka. Did I read every single word of the bonus pages? No, I didn't. Because they're bonus pages. And I'm reviewing the comic for the story. There's nothing here about Yuka. There's nothing on this page that says it was drawn by Yuka. If I click onto this and I scroll here, where how far do I have to scroll to get to Yuka? I don't see Yuka anywhere. I don't see Yuka anywhere. I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom. I don't see it. I don't see it. It's all just bio and lore about the world, which is nice. Again, it's no problem. I don't see anything about Yuka here. I don't see it. There's no Yuka in this book. At least on the online version. In the physical version, maybe that's the case, but I don't see Yuka's name anywhere here. And this is now my third time scrolling over the book. So no. Yuka's not here. Alpha Core is the worst. It's literally a Trinity ripoff, and they didn't change anything at all. My main problem with Rippaverse is that Eric was so excited to do a universe, he didn't pay attention to the world building being organic. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair criticism. I'm 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 mainly looking at Alpha Core and comparing it to the rest of the Rippaverse stuff. I would say narratively, it's the better of many of the books. I haven't read all the books at this point. There's too many. But I think Alpha Core is narratively one of the better ones. It has like a character arc for the cop who sacrifices himself by the end. Spoilers. Uh, but my critique about that was that the character arc was about the cop and not any of the Alpha Core members instead. Though Ingrid had like a part to play in that, she didn't get the main character growth. That was for the cop. But yeah, I mean, it is very generic. Like, they are very generic. Like, it's just, there's two Superman clones in the Alpha Core, and then Ingrid with the Electro Whip, which, like, if anything, I think Ingrid is probably the most interesting, and she gets the most screen time as far as, like, character development goes. The rest of the characters don't really grow. But I can forgive it because it's the first installment of the series, and they have three main characters. So as long as one of the main characters gets, like, a spotlight, I can be okay with that. I can look past that. I don't have to have all the characters be bombastic and immediately like blowing my mind when I read the first comic. It's nice, but it's not necessary, I don't think. But yeah, that's interesting though. You think it's the worst. I think it's the best.
Down here free and formed loose opinions based off the hearsay and gossip of third parties that have been intentionally seeking to malign me.
If you say Yaira is the best, I'm gonna have to question you a little bit, but you can have that opinion.
And damage my business.
You're fine. You're free to have that opinion. I think Yaira's the worst.
Manga, and and good or bad. You know, if you like it, great. If you don't like it, oh well. But the as far as art goes, I've got nothing else to say. I'm gonna get moving on to the world building. And now the world building, I think, is actually some really good stuff here. I actually think there's some really cool ideas being presented very early on.
I'm surprised to hear that, honestly.
Crows.
Yeah. It's almost as if this is not a bad faith review. It's almost as if this is my honest thoughts on the comic I just read or the manga I just read.
That are man eaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then even the smaller crows are deadly because they can they eat on the bodies. They infect you with this virus. Which, by the way, I gotta say it now.
Before you say anything, the satellite birds, right? The satellite birds are dangerous, as you can see up here, because they're not true Ziz, right? If you actually read this, if you actually read their reproduction and what everything happens and what the Zor are, they're called the Zor, the satellite birds, okay? The Zor aren't even birds. Like, read this book. They're cats, dogs, anything that gets infected by the virus turns into those little birds that is telepathically controlled by the big birds.
Does it matter to the story of the comic I'm reading right now? The answer is no. The comic is presenting me with these birds that carry a virus. I, in the moment, don't need to know that these birds are being turned into dogs or cats and dogs being turned into birds. All right? I don't need to know that. It's cool. It's great stuff. But it's not what I'm criticizing here. What I'm about to criticize is the name Corvid virus, which I know Corvid refers to bird. It's like the scientific name or something like that. Maybe not the scientific name, but one of those names, right? I know that's the case. But I also know that this was made after COVID. And Liam has some strong opinions about COVID. And I just sort of eye roll a little bit whenever I hear Corvid virus.
Like, it's a horrible mutagenic virus that spreads and does horrible things to the environment. Not everything turns into one of those Zor that becomes essentially slaved to the larger birds that the larger birds can use to spy. So it's like,
Did he have a flashbang in his room? Why did it get so bright?
You'll see. Look at big central eye, right? See how it's the only eye that has like a pupil in it, and the others are all whited out.
I can only see the boob.
That's because it's controlling these other satellite birds and stuff, you know. So it can like look out of the eyes of other.
And that's cool. I think that's a cool thing. I think that's awesome, and that's very organic, built into the scene. I can look at that eye and say, I wonder what that eye does. and then you explain it later on.
Of the other crows, regardless of their location, to get different perspectives and different points of view, so that it can't get snuck up on from behind, and it can use these other guys that it's got like telepathic control of to like intercept bullets and shit like that.
Let me say this too: the last thing I want to do whenever I open up a comic book is read like 5 pages of homework to understand the world. I would much rather learn about the world from the characters and the visuals of the world itself. That's way more fun than having to read 5 pages of homework. What's up, student of God?
It's the reason that they've got to fight in the way they do with the weapons they have. So, but orbitals, thank you, very uniquely Australian. Thank you, Wilberforce. You know, hey, how you doing?
It is uniquely Australian.
They should watch Wellred's review of Kakashi Murder. You should share that on your social media.
Be the segment where I praise the
actually
book.
Put that out there.
The name of the virus is Corvid, the Corvid virus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this came out in 2023.
Yeah, when we were
it's just a little corny. Whether or not it's supposed to be.
Why is it corny? These are
Let me finish. Let me explain it.
Yeah, but it's the fact. It's the Murder Dolls 5 or 6 issues away. But
analogy for.
Well, actually, to be fair, the virus stuff won't be covered until after the Murder Dolls arc. So it's like 5 or 6 issues away. But
or not, I have no idea. If the story goes along and says the virus is actually not real, it's actually a fake thing that the government and these corporations made to ruin us and control us, it's very much on the nose, and I don't like it because of that. It's not subtle at all. If that's the story, I don't know if that's the story or not because there's only one volume of this available. So that's all I really had to go off of.
I'm mainly joking when I say that. By the way, I did not think that's what the plot was going to be.
It's on the nose. But the world here basically is that these crows have this virus that's infecting people, and you've got these different corporations that are somewhat saving people, but also like.
No, we don't have different corporations. We have one monopoly mega corporation, Norco, that runs everything now.
Okay.
There's no other corporation that appears in this entire book. There's not.
Okay, I can get that wrong. That's fine. I got that wrong.
A single corporation that appears other than Norco.
Told by CPR prisoners.
Unless you count, like Oz's bar.
I mean,
and it's not a corporation; it's a small bar in a small town. You know what I mean?
It's crazy, man.
It's like it's
crazy.
So that too is another false assumption.
I can't wait till unrelated, but I can't wait till Frog Tony's comic comes out, if it ever does, just so when people inevitably criticize it. And look, it could be the best comic in the world, and you can still find things to criticize about it. I can't wait to see his reaction to the criticism.
Assumption that this was a virus made by the government. This is why you got to buy the book. This is why you got to buy the book and read everything before you start making assumptions.
Or I can just read it for free, which I did.
It's about stuff, you know what I mean? There's so much
Also,
that
student
is in the book
your
that is not
caps
in.
lock is stuck.
It's not in the free webtoon version on purpose.
This is not webtoon.
So, but hey, who cares?
Killing them and
also, like, again, bonus information, especially stuff that's in the comic physically, should not be vital to understanding the world. If you're going to make bonus material, it's like a DVD. Whenever a deluxe DVD comes out with like behind the scenes stuff and concept art, none of that should affect the story of the movie. None of that should be vital to understanding the story of the movie. You can explain how, what Gollum, or no, Smeagol did before he became Gollum. You can explain what his job was, what his hobby was. That's fine. But as long as it's not vital to the story.
And not even people that are just infected.
And not everything in those bonus pages are vital to the story. Some of it is stuff that is discussed in the story organically, that doesn't need to be on those pages. But having those bonus pages is not a bad thing, as long as it's not like I have to read 5 pages of homework to understand your world. And I don't. I understand it pretty well. Sure, I got a few things wrong by saying there's multiple companies or whatever. I guess there's only one company. My bad.
But they killed this kid's, this kid's name is Jack. They killed his parent.
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus. Okay, that's a good one. +2.
I might do a variation called the coronavirus in the far, far future. That's funny as shit.
That's good. That's funny. That's funny. Still corny, but it's funny.
Coronavirus. Oh, it's glorious.
Well, you normally see the
his mom
preview
seems to be
before a
infected.
movie.
His dad is not. They kill him anyway, right in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, like that. You see the previews of other movies before you watch the movie. Or like the opening of Star Wars monologue. Yeah, well, here's the thing. My take about the Star Wars monologue is I think that is a lazy but effective way of setting the story. I think it's really easy just to do that and just make your audience read like 5 paragraphs of information to get caught up. And honestly, if you go back and watch Star Wars A New Hope, you don't even really need the opening crawl. For the time period, like, people probably did, because, like, you know, there hadn't really been a movie made like Star Wars before. Not at the scale, right? So, like, I can see for the time period they did. But you don't need the opening crawl to understand the story of A New Hope. It starts off, middle of the action, very clearly pointing out who the good guys and the bad guys are. The good guys, Leia is hiding something in droids. These droids are escaping from the bad guys. The bad guys are angry they don't have the thing that Leia just sent. And then you got Luke, and it's all self-explanatory from there. Like, you really don't even need the opening crawl. So that's my take on the crawl thing. I think it's lazy, like, but it is effective.
At that point, just mercy killing the kid. They keep him, and then they use him for some kind of experiment later on, which gives him these powers and turns him into what is called a scarecrow.
It's not what happened, actually. Do you see like there are all these assumptions being made about what's going on? It's not what's going on. That's not what happened. If you read the dialogue, read it twice. Read it twice. Be nice. Read it twice. So
yeah, show don't tell is the thing. Yeah,
they want this guy because he's a Sparky, and they want tradies. They want people with technical skills, people that can help rebuild society. His wife is just his wife, so they already don't want her. She has no value to them. She's just a fucking extra mouth to feed. They only want him. On top of everything else, you know, this is Williams, right? On top of everything else, Williams is like, well, I'm not going to fucking go without my family. I ain't fucking going without my family. I ain't doing it. If you want me, yeah. Oh, I realize I can't scroll. If you want me, you know.
He started scrolling.
And then his son is like, but dad, like you said, Norco are cunts, basically.
I've done the same thing before.
Deal with cunts, you know, like that's part of being a man, you know. Not that any of these other people would understand that, you know. But anyway. And she's talking to him and everything sort of thing. And they're like, hey, come on. But like, she's not even infected. She's just injured. You understand? And it's not her stomach. I would look closely into the position of her injuries.
It doesn't matter if it's her stomach or not. It's not the main point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Please do a review of John Malin's Godlike. I might one day. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Like, I want to do a Cyberfrog review, but I don't know. It's not top of the priority list. You know, I'm much more interested in like the lesser known creators, and trying to like if something is like really good, I want to spotlight it, especially if it's lesser known, because I would want people to do the same thing with me.
But because Liam's smart, remember, you're not dealing with an ordinary normie storyteller here. So there's extra details and everything if you look close. But yeah, they're like, hey, she could be sick, and that's enough. That's the evil. It's them.
It also doesn't matter if she's infected or just injured or not. Like, it doesn't really matter. For the story purposes, they're going to kill her anyway. And either way, it's going to be like, okay, you couldn't try and save her, you couldn't try and get a cure for her, or you couldn't, you know, try and nurse her injuries. Like, it's the same thing. It equals the same situation, the same result. I mean,
they can justify.
And I did get it. I did get it wrong. That, you know, they were
purely
after the kid. I did get that wrong.
She could be sick, but
they
really,
were,
at the
they
end
were
of the
after
day,
the husband,
it's just
not necessarily the kid.
So everything that happens is purely because she has no value to them, and they're like, "Hey, we're just gonna." It's all about power and abuse. The whole book is about power and abuse, and no one has seemed to have the capacity to observe that so far.
I got that pretty clearly. I got that. I understood that.
Now, I like the idea that, you know, it is basically a zombie like virus, plague apocalypse that's going on in Australia, but it's not just a zombie virus, right? You've got these crows, which add a little bit of uniqueness to it, right? You've also got these characters. They got their modifications allow them to absorb electric energy and even travel fast on telephone poles and cables. And I thought that was a really cool scene where the characters are doing that. They're traveling from a farm to a bar on the cables. I thought that was cool. That's a cool idea. They got these sais that are built to take out these birds. And the technology seems to be like super advanced and stuff like that. Like, it's a little bit of cyberpunk, a little bit of zombie apocalypse, and a lot of anime, a lot of manga tropes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think while none of these things are entirely unique on their own, I think the combination for the world, I think it works. And I think there's some interesting things to do with this world that Liam has set up here. It's all pretty cool in the Outback setting. While strange because it's in a Japanese manga style, having all of these characters being extremely Australian, down to the vocabulary. it does make it a little more unique, you know, because since
Well, thank
most anime is set in Japan, and even
But remember, guys, I'm doing this in bad faith. Remember, I'm doing this in bad faith.
the fantasy stuff is usually set in like its own kind of world. That's, you know, obviously very Japanese. The Australian setting makes it unique, is what I'm saying, and I
Yes.
think while the art style might not be the most unique, I think the world makes up for that a little bit. But here's where I get to my most negative critiques. I've sung the praises of Liam Gray so far, with a few nitpicks here and there. But here's where I'm actually going to start to get a little negative in this review, and that is the characters. I don't even have really a plot segment to this review, because reviewing the characters is basically going to review the plot. Because as far as what happens in this first volume, there's not a whole lot, to be honest. There's really just not a whole lot that goes on. It's very short, despite the fact that it's 40 pages.
It's all character
really
work. And
short.
wait a minute.
Actually,
A lot happens. You learn the history of Jack and Scarlet. You see the beginning of Rob's decline into alcoholism. You get to meet the
beginning of his decline. You're kind of just thrust into the worst of his alcoholism. You're thrust into the worst of it, man. You're only told about how he used to be better, and then he gets killed.
cast of the setting and see the environment that they come through. You get to see the threat
entire
of
Godlike
the
comic is the
crows,
opening
and you
scene
get to
in
see that
Star
their
Wars.
past comes back to haunt them.
A brown
as well.
CBR.
Also, you
We
get to
are
see
in
their
an
dysfunctional
EFAP
relationship,
session right
and you
now.
get to see their past come back
Right
to
now.
haunt them. So
Right
that's
now.
6 major story beats broken down into 5 acts. You can say a lot doesn't happen, but there's a lot happening here that you missed out on, that you didn't follow. There's a lot of subtext. There's a lot of establishing of characters. This is a story about abuse of power, abuse of people, the objectification of people, human instrumentality.
B-Real retweeted. He said he tweeted out this stream link. It's over for our dear friend EV Comics. The Koala King has spoken, and may God have mercy on your soul. Doing multiple live streams and going after people that reviewed your books and saying why they are wrong, and name calling is far worse than Eric July's reaction to Dick and Vito. This is not a good look, Liam, and maybe you should stop doing this because you pretty much destroyed any goodwill you had in CG. Well, in my opinion, he destroyed that. The last goodwill he might have had, I think he destroyed it whenever he started talking about what's the guy who passed away. I'm not familiar with him, so forgive me for not knowing his name. But the guy in chats that used to play Fortnite with Risey. That's all I really know about him, to be honest. But whenever he started trying to say that he was best friends and he was feeding him information from behind the scenes, like that lost any sort of I guess minor amounts of care I gave for Liam. Oh man. Sorry, I'm looking at a bunch of replies to like a tweet I made. I commented about, someone said, games have all been downhill. All of them have been downhill since the 360 era. And I'm like, no, there's actually been some really good games that have come out through the year. There's just some bad ones too. And guess what? There were some bad ones back then as well. And people don't like that I'm pointing out that obvious fact. But anyway, I'm trying to find. I was trying to see where I can get Godlike. If I get Godlike, I don't want to buy it for full price because I saw the eBay listing for $85, and that is not in my budget. So I mean, if I can find one that's cheap for resale, I'll take it.
This is, and that's not even an Evangelion term. It is the term of, turning humans into instruments. There's, the decline of Rob. There's the great lie, the hypocrisy. There's the setup.
The decline of Rob was not shown. It was told
up for the whole next issue where we find out that Reaper Man, that the real Lloyd Sortel, has showed up and taken the brain of their father for some reason. Their adopted father taking the brain of Rob. Says that's the only, you've got the only thing that I need. You gave me everything, and this is the only thing I need.
And that would be a good hook, a good thing to interest me in the next issue, if I cared about Rob.
Now and goes off. That's a great setup. But let's hear what you got to say. How nothing much happens in it. Like there's only the destruction of civilization, the destruction of a child's life, the rebuilding of the life, a rebuilding of a broken family, a rebuilding of a.
He's taking it by saying nothing happens. By me saying nothing happens, it does not mean nothing happens in the entire comic. It means nothing happens for the characters. The characters do not develop. The characters do not develop here. We get shown some kind of introduction to who these characters are, and then they go through this moment where they're barely sad about the passing of Rob. They're barely sad. They're not sad about the farmer that gets killed, and which is basically almost a death sentence to this community. They barely touch on that. They barely seem to care about anything, and that's why I didn't latch on to the characters. Identity. They don't seem to care.
And a massacre. I guess that's not enough.
Able to accomplish with those pages. And I've seen comics of shorter length or about the same length that have told much more of a complete story, if not a little faster paced, still telling a more satisfying story that ends up leaving me wanting more. Comparably, I think the review I just posted for a Puppet was about the same length. It was very similar. I can't remember exactly the page count, but it was very similar. And it told a more, I think, intriguing story that left me wanting more at the end of it, even if I did feel like the ending could have had a little bit more action to it, a little more of a cliffhanger going into it. But I still felt like that story does a better job with its shorter amount of pages compared to some of the Rippaverse stuff, for example. That's like 80 to 100 pages.
I will eventually be releasing an additional cover for Kakashi Murder Dolls when I do Kakashi Murder Dolls 2. But if you want to read it before then, or if you want one of the original copies, it is one of my lower print run books. I don't really have very many of them left. I think I only have 5 copies left. So I imagine that it will be quite valuable. But give it a shot. You might be hard finding it.
I wonder why it's lower print volume than his other stuff.
I will be doing a reprint. I have a new cover that Yuka did right before she left, because I was planning on doing a reprint. I have the Scarlet cover. So that's just sort of sitting in a bin somewhere and not in a folder. But we'll see.
Well,
this is comparably similar to Puppet, but I felt pretty empty by the end of this. and the best way I can tell this, the best way I can explain why I felt this didn't work for a story for me, is to make a comparison. And thank you so much, Liam Gray, for letting me talk about Symbionic Titan. Now, this extremely.
I do have to make a correction here. I said that the first episode, it shows the downfall of their planet, them escaping. That was wrong. I misspoke here. It is not the first episode that happens. But in that one episode, if you watch that episode first, out of order, if you watch that episode first, you would be hooked on this show. If you watch the first episode, the real first episode of the show, you will be hooked on this show because of how solid it shows off the characters and their relationships with each other, their goals, their just within this first episode, there's a great amount of character development between them. They go from, they already start to show off their like brother-sister bond they got going with each other, compared to when they're just strictly like princess, robot, soldier. They already start to become family by the end of the first episode.
You mean the story that was written by JMD, at the same time as teaching me Symbiotic Titan? What gay ops is this? What gay ops is this? What? This is what I want to know.
Underappreciated, criminally so, I would say.
Okay.
Piece of Gendy Tartakovsky's work.
Yeah.
He's done stuff like Dexter's Laboratory,
yeah.
The Samurai Jack, the Clone Wars 2003 miniseries for Star
Yeah.
Wars. This show, he did the Hotel Transylvania, which I only watched the first one and I was okay with that. But he also did Primal.
Gorilla?
Which is a really good.
Primal is the best thing on television right now.
Primal's
series,
really
that
good.
this guy's third season
I
is
need to
going on right
watch season 3, man.
Gendy
I
is
watched season
extremely
1 and
good. He
2.
is-
I
Gendy is
need
where
to
I
catch up
learned
on 3.
storyboarding from.
I just canceled my HBO Max because they took off
He is
all
an
the
extremely good
cartoons.
animator. And this, in my opinion, is one of his best things he's ever made. And it's
Yeah.
sad because it got
And it was largely written by JMD, the guy that But hey, let's. This might not be gay ops. This might just be God giving me here's a tablespoon of irony, Liam. Enjoy it. So I'm just.
James MD? Writer? I don't care. I don't really care who James MD is, to be honest. In relation to Liam, I don't really care why Liam doesn't like him. I honestly don't know anything about the guy. But I know the writing of this show is good.
I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy this. This is funny.
Canceled after 1 season.
Yeah.
Or JMD. It's been debunked that JMD didn't mentor Leem. Someone tweeted at him. Oh, this is one of the people that he says like at like 5 years old chose him to be like his successor or whatever. Is that like I'm exaggerating, but like you know what I mean? Is that it? I didn't know he was claiming that, or at least I've forgotten about it.
They couldn't sell toys. But I bring this up because there are some very similar comparisons I can make here to Kakashi murder dolls that will explain why I don't think it worked. So in Symbiotic Titan, in the first episode, you get to see this planet that's being that's under siege. You've got these characters that are running around. This girl in the back is Princess Alana. She's the daughter of the king. The king's trying to get her and this young soldier Lance, trying to get them with their robot friend Octus. He's trying to get them off.
Which
planet.
actually, you do get to see the king. You do get to actually see the king and the planet and all that in the first episode. So I might not even be wrong.
So that they can be safe, and he's going to stay behind for his people, but also to make sure that the people that are attacking cannot find Alana. And in a short amount of time, you figure out. You feel the sacrifice that the king makes. You feel like the weight of that because in just a short amount of time, in I'm talking like minutes, if like not even maybe 5 minutes, you get to see the king is characterized.
That happens in the first episode. Yeah. So I'm not even wrong. Oh, J.M. DeMatteis. DeMatteis.
Loving father, and also a badass. And you also get to characterize that throughout the first episode later on, that Alana is a very cheerful and upbeat person, very positive person despite her circumstances. And she's also a really capable fighter in her own mech suit. Lance is an extremely competent fighter and a very angsty teen boy.
I'm new to the comics get lore, man. I'm new to it.
Is to these main characters here in Murder Dolls. Which, by the way, why is it called Murder Dolls? They're not dolls.
I'm going to skip him explaining why it's called Murder Dolls.
Anime boy abs. It has an eye patch, as if it wasn't traumatic enough that he had his parents killed in front of him, that his mentor had to scoop out his eye when he was like 12 years old. It's a little bit overkill in my opinion, but that's just me. That's a personal thing. But the main thing here is that this guy is angsty, and he's a young guy, and he's sort of like her protector. Not really, like not a princess and soldier dynamic, but like a big brother and little sister dynamic.
Yeah.
And then they have this mentor guy, and this dude is sort of like their father. He took them in and basically
I'm glad
trained
it's
them
cropped
to be
out of my
scarecrows to hunt these.
He's got that
OBS.
right. So he's got that. He's with us so far. He's following so far. This is good.
These crows here, and what you end up seeing throughout this. By the way, this totally is the same art. This is the same art.
Yeah, he hasn't
Again,
moved.
no shame in using the same art, but definitely this armored guy back here.
I did point
the
this out
shading
in this
detail
video.
should have been like done away with. Like you should have done away with some of the shading on this dude to put him in the background because
Okay,
I can
story.
see
I want to hear your story,
that
Chris.
it's the same exact artwork.
Next.
Here, I'll fast forward.
This mentor dude who sort of took them in and trained them, he is very drunk, and the conversation here basically describes that this dude wasn't always this way, but now he's just become worse and worse. He's insulting them. He's saying, I wish I'd never taken yous in. And basically they part ways after being in this argument here. But
what actually happened here? What happened in this scene? What's actually happening in this?
I can tell you what happened in this scene. You're implying that these two have a long history, and telling us, the reader, that this guy wasn't always a drunk. Instead of having some kind of flashback around this point to show things were different, instead of doing things in a little more creative way, you just have that. And it doesn't get me to care about this guy because you don't show me him being caring. It doesn't show me that this Rob guy is a caring mentor that once was a good man that means a lot to these characters. I don't feel that whenever I'm reading this. In Lil Miss Steel Volume 1, I very clearly show that Miss Steel is a caring mother. She just doesn't have the time like a normal mother would to be there for her daughter because she's a superhero. And I explore that dynamic in the first like half of the comic, and then in the second half, boom, you think she's dead on the ground, being shot out of the sky by this laser cannon. That has the intended emotional impact because it is set up that she is a good person. And that V, while being disgruntled with her, especially her dad, she definitely doesn't want her mom to die.
They show up
Here
to
it
try to
doesn't,
impress their father.
it doesn't happen.
They show up in a positive attitude to try and impress him with, look, we got the head of this thing. Look. And instead, he's just riddled with fucking despair and, drunk as a skunk, right? And he's angry. But he's not angry at them. He's angry at him fucking self. But they don't know how to process their emotions and stuff. If you actually read the conversation and look what's going on between these guys,
read the conversation.
You've got the head-to-head shot as they're opposed. He's like, you seem like you got something you want to get off your chest, old man, But, like, they're just interpreting everything wrong. See, there's the crow's head, already shit's screwed up. He's on, listen to me, you bloody wanker. That man you put on a pedestal died years ago when he was young and stupid because he sees himself and thinks, young and stupid, you hear me, boy? So,
and maybe if you give me a moment to show this guy being nice, a moment of Rob being a good mentor to these two, maybe I would care when he dies. But you didn't.
There's lots going on here that
you only showed me the worst part of him, and then
expect
me to be sad, okay? Or expect me to be hooked about him dying and finding out what happens next. And I'm not.
And Jack has stepped up, but he's too much like his father. Well, his adopted father. You'll find it. You just keep watching. There's a lot.
This dude wasn't always this way, but now he's just become worse and worse. He's insulting them. He's saying, "I wish I'd never taken yous in."
Yeah, and is that just to hurt him? Maybe part of it, but maybe there's more to this. I never should have taken yous in.
I might never know because he dies, and maybe he could be revived. Maybe they can recover his brain and put it back in his body and stable him up like Frankenstein. He works. Maybe that's good because that's the story kind of implies that's possible. And you know what? Like if that happens, cool. But I would like to care about this guy.
What's going on here? Look, first he's fucking grim dark. Then he says that and it hits him, right? And his response is then grief. And what's he say? He says, "You're on the road to nowhere. You're never gonna get anywhere in life. Not like this." And all that Jack can say is he thinks quietly for a moment, looks back and says, "You're an arsehole, Lloyd." He doesn't even know his father's real name, does he? Like just his adopted father's real name. He doesn't even know this man properly. So there's a lot going on here to unpack if you actually look. But I guess I wrote for mature readers.
I just didn't find myself caring for him.
They part ways after being in this argument here.
You see this look here? See this look? They walk away united, brother and sister, away from their father. But Scarlett looks back with a soft look to her father, and she doesn't think he's a piece of shit or what an asshole or anything like that. She's like, he's getting
I saw that.
Worse. But she loves her dad, and they leave.
And you would think that this is setting up some kind of like emotional setup for the inevitable, the inevitable tragedy that either the mentor dies or that the mentor is captured and they need to save him and then he ends up dying. But they have some kind of small, forgiveness or coming together that at least allows them to part ways on good terms, right? This dude comes in, skull-faced dude, which not the most creative villain, but this guy comes in and basically just straight up just instantly beheads him, slices his head in half, scoops out his brain, takes it, and then there's a shower scene, of course, and then he's shirtless some more, and then they come back to the bar, and instead of
which, by the way, that's not me critiquing it, that's me pointing out the anime tropes.
Like instead of crying about it, instead of being like extremely like upset about it and everything, they're kind of chill. Basically, it seems like these guys that are like amplified, their bodies have been like altered or whatever. They can apparently be put back together and come back to life, but the brain is gone, so they can't do that. And then they have this scene where like, she's not upset, she's not crying here because or almost crying here because the mentor died. She's upset because the people at the bar, the people of this area, are firing them for being their scarecrows, their protectors. That's why she's upset. And then this conversation afterwards, they're still not like none of them are.
So Liam just said yeah to that, which is okay.
Are crying about it. None of them even look too emotional about it. If anything, Jack is angry, but he's angry because he's gonna settle this guy's debt or whatever. And this
that's what makes this special. You don't get it. It's like they don't know he's dead. They think that he's just like, it's like the equivalent of like, imagine if you could just chop off your hand and go and get it later and sew it back on. They're like, oh, fuck, you've made all this extra work for us, Lloyd. First you get us fired, right? First Dad gets us fired. We're already doing Dad's job. Dad's meant to be doing our job. But instead, Dad turned us into super soldiers so we could do his job so he could drink all day. So we got to fucking do his job. Then the aggro Norm Macdonald gets killed because she was reading fucking One Piece. And now, while I was away for 5 minutes, she was reading One Piece. The guy we're meant to be protecting gets fucking killed. He's meant to run the whole farm. We don't know how to run a farm. Our old man's drunk as fucking piss, and then, oh, great, now he's got his head cut off. It's not enough that he get his fucking head cut off. Now he got his fucking brain stolen by some retard. So now we've got to go get his brain to put his fucking brain back in his head so that he can get back to work and things, so we can figure out what we're going to do now that Norm's dead. Because when Norco finds out that Norm is dead because we fucked up, we're going to get busted by by our bosses and shit.
Where do I even begin? So he just admitted that was all intentional. That's all, like, he intended that. I'm sorry. That's bad. That's not good. I don't care about these characters because they don't care about Rob. I don't care about Rob because you only showed him being a jerk. I don't care about the story because I don't care about the characters. My God. And you said, like, they don't know that he's dead? No, they pretty clearly say that he's dead. I don't know, man. At the end of the day, I'm going to fast forward to, like, a little bit further ahead. Just because I cannot believe he just said all that.
That, like, everyone's terrified to fucking go. Either kill everyone that was fucking involved in this, who he doesn't know about Reaper Man. He doesn't know that's the real fucking Lloyd. He doesn't know what he's getting into. Neither of those two do. So
the real Lloyd? The guy's name is Lloyd? Here's the thing. He's talking about stuff that's happening in the next comic. I don't know what happens in the next comic. I don't know.
He's got to go deal with that. He's got to make sure that either word doesn't get out or everyone thinks that Lloyd's still alive and kick the shit out of whoever last came to town, and to protect their little haven. And then they've got to figure out what they can do so that Norco, the company that owns them, because these are products, the company that owns them doesn't come back and stick its fucking nose into their business, which is the last thing they want. Because, well, for reasons you'll find out if you backed Total Conquest, actually, you'll find out why they don't want Norco sniffing around Guida. You'll find out the first hint of it.
Do I have to read every single comic to understand each individual series? Because I can understand why it's cool to do crossovers, but it is kind of like, I don't know, it is a little demanding, I guess. Like, whenever I make spin-offs, like, they're gonna be tying in with each other, but you won't need to read, if I ever do like a Ishu reboot or a Demonica reboot, you wouldn't need to read those to understand Lil Miss Steel, and vice versa. My favorite Leem lore was Nerd Wonder DM's Romance Right. Yes, you had to read it all. Right. Which, like, okay. I mean, like, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but for me, like, I don't know, I just prefer it to where I can watch a show all the way through and not have to watch a whole other show just so I can understand the show I started watching in the first place. That's the criticism about the MCU and the shows, was that the movies after Endgame, it was like you had to watch hours of show content to understand all the characters. Like Thunderbolts, you had to watch like so many shows to understand the Thunderbolts movie. And I mean, like, could you watch it without it? I mean, maybe, but you would be confused about who all these characters are. Anyway, I don't know. It's a different strategy, I guess.
If you remember,
I'm not going to be super.
All right, let's see the rest of what he has to say.
Emotional, or rather, lack of emotional reaction, and the previous scene before the mentor dies, because of the way that was set up. When he got his head sliced off, I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing seeing this guy die. I didn't even feel bad for these two, because as established, they didn't really have a good relationship with him in the first place. And then after they show up and like find him like that, and then are talking about it later on in this scene, I still feel nothing, because there's no sort of emotion.
Why are you laughing?
Because it's funny how bad it is. That's why.
Laughing if you don't feel anything.
I'm laughing now. When I was reading it, I was just like, just straight face, just. And then at the end of it, I was like, I was making that face.
connection here. And again, going
He's
back to
so
Symbiotic
smug
Titan,
about
in
it
a short
too. He
amount of
thinks he's
time,
got a point
you
here, but he
feel
doesn't.
For the king who's sacrificing him being with his daughter, he's taking a huge gamble on sending her and this soldier, who at the time you don't even know if he really knows all that much, trusting this guy and this robot here to protect his daughter so that she can have a chance at surviving and potentially coming back when it's.
The problem is you have no idea about the real motives of Rob.
I didn't know the real motives of these characters in Symbionic Titan before I watched the episode for the first time. And by the end of the episode, I understood a lot of the motives, not all the motives. I didn't understand everything about the characters, their entire backstory, but I knew that I thought they were really, well, I thought they were cool because I was a kid when I watched it for the first time. But as an adult, I go back and watch it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is all very well written.
Why he is the way he is, or what he did, or why he did it, and you're not meant to know at this point in the story.
And I don't need to know. I just need to know that there was a point in time. I need to be shown that there's a point in time where these characters actually liked each other.
And the kids, they don't know either. You know what I mean? This isn't the same story as Symbionic Titan. I'm very proud of Symbionic Titan. It's a very good series.
Yeah, obviously it's not the same story. I'm pointing out similarities on why Symbionic Titan is a better story.
I'm surprised he mentioned it. I thought he was going to gay off me. But it's a very good series, and there's a lot of good episodes written and a lot of good work done on that series. And
I would
it's
never
a shame
gay
that
off
it was,
you, Liam.
sort of petered out, you know what I mean?
I'm only doing honest
anyway,
criticism.
It's not the same story. And when you find out the real motives behind Rob, right, and what he's doing here, you'll figure out that he's a flawed man doing the best he can.
I can understand
like
that.
this, and
I got that from his character. Like that, right? I still didn't like him as a character because of the way you wrote him.
Page 18. This is Rob as a young man. Look at how fucking devastated he is over everything. Look at how fucking devastated he is. And he finds this young girl, and then he brings her along. And what happens? He starts getting paid out. They basically call him a pedophile, right? And he's already started drinking.
You still don't show him being
nice.
He's
doing the best he can during what is essentially wartime.
You show him basically taking these two kids as apprentices. And
he might not be a big super soldier guy. He might be a doctor. He's like a character out of MASH almost, who's been forced to witness not only the decline and destruction of human civilization as he knows it, but also the decline of the human soul. And all of that will become sort of obvious as stuff goes on, as time goes on. But all of that got like rave reviews from people who read the book. But it's like going like, you felt nothing. Well, you're laughing, and it's meant to be
not a
funny
point
in a way. It's meant to be ironic and sad. And if you actually really look at the situation, what you have here is a flawed, fucked up man who's struggling with his own demons, who's trying to raise kids that aren't his.
I got that.
For the best life that he can possibly give them. And instead, he's just damned them to repeat the same cycle that he is repeating.
I got that.
Maybe worse.
I still don't like him.
And for reasons that aren't
and I still don't care that he died.
When Lloyd shows back up again and they go, he's a skeleton man. Well, he's not just a skeleton man. Wait until you see him at the end of the second book, by the way. You say, oh, he's got a terrible design. Wait until you see him at the end of the second book.
I didn't say it was a terrible design. I said it wasn't the most unique design ever. How many skull-faced villain characters are in comics?
And, he's up to something. There's a reason that he doesn't look human. There's a reason that he has two heretical eyes instead of an eye patch like all the other scarecrows, Like, there's so many layers of stuff in here that if people actually looked at it and read, it's all foreshadowing for what's coming. I was very careful with what...
Evie Comics is lying. He is totally gay-opping you.
I did, and I was very proud of you guys' work on the book.
Don't tell him.
If you felt nothing for this, maybe you're not someone who has had flawed people or flawed family and fucked up situations. But yeah, what can I say? If you don't even understand the sort of murder doll parallel, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Safer. And sacrificing his safety, and he ends up getting captured and tortured to find out the location of her. And you feel so much more from that short amount of time at the beginning of episode 1. I feel so much more watching that as a kid and even as an adult now than I ever did reading this. I felt...
Yeah, well, I suppose it's a better story. Symbionic Titan was worked on by some of the greatest writers in the industry.
Well, hold on, wait a minute. Liam, aren't you one of the greatest writers in the industry? Aren't you the southern god of manga?
Handsome, debonair. Wonderful people.
I guess the bravado falls when you want to play the victim.
Storyboard artists in the industry. Wondrous people. And this is an incomplete story that's the equivalent of the first, maybe, like what?
I wasn't comparing this to the totality of Symbionic Titan. I was comparing it to one episode.
10 minutes of 15 minutes of a television show? Maybe one episode?
22 minutes.
You want these characters to be something they're not? These are flawed, fucked up people.
I want these characters to be interesting and likable. That's all I ask. I think we should send copies of Kakashi Murder Dolls to Medicare and see what happens.
It's angsty. It's edgy. It's meant to be something that teenagers find cool. You know, all of the teenagers that go, fuck you, dad. This story is written for the people that say, fuck you, dad, and mean it. You know what I mean? That's who this audience is. If you've got a great relationship with your dad.
It's funny because I kind of had like a similar approach to my first project, Demonico. Not necessarily like to say that, but it was pointing at the main character is a kid who became an orphan because of his dad's evil mistakes and his sins, essentially. And there's a lot of stuff complicated to it, but it was directed at teens who would think that this guy is edgy and cool and stuff like that. Like, it's actually very similar approaches that I had with my first attempt at a series, which, by the way, I gotta reboot that because it has aged. So let me tell you,
This probably isn't good for you.
6 years of
I'm not trying to help people that have stable family
man.
lives and have their life all together. My books are written to help people that are struggling through difficult relationships and with difficult times, difficult people.
Yeah, so is mine. So is mine. In fact, Lil Miss Steel also has conflict with her parental figures. Also has very confused emotions about her parental figures.
Difficult circumstances, you know what I mean? They're for the teenagers, the outsiders, you know, the edgelords. They're for the people that think there could be a little bit more to this world, but there isn't. People who see themselves in a little bit of this darkness, you know. If your life's all together and perfect, you know, this isn't my Superman work. This is why I said I wanted to write Wonder Island clear and pristine, because Wonder Island is my Superman book. It's not my darkness book. All of these books are based. All the Xenoverse stuff is heavily.
Superman's life is not easy and pristine.
Rooted in darkness. All of it. All of it is about imperfect people.
Just
Superman
nothing
is
reading
not
this as far
perfect.
as like an emotional attachment to the story or anything. And at the end of the day, the only real thing I have to say left about this is that it feels like it's trying really hard.
Hold on, did this guy read Isom and cry? Are you for real?
No. No. I read ISOM and gave it a pass because it was the first comic. Read ISOM 2, was disappointed but gave it a pass because it was the second comic. Read Alpha Core and liked it. Read Yaira and hated it. And ever since then, I haven't really read a Rippaverse comic that I thought was really, really good. Alpha Core was the last one that I thought was genuinely good. Gooding was okay and Horseman was okay. But there were still pretty major flaws with both of those two.
Are you for real?
Oh,
Sorry, I'd like to. I'm glad I know of you now. No, thank you. I appreciate you being here.
There are
I'm
a
glad
lot
you
of
enjoyed
details
it.
in the book, and the world building is good. And I've
He was
said that
crying
in the
because he wanted
review.
Ripper
And
Send to save him.
he's read this. He was crying because he wanted Ripper Send to save him. Dennis. Oh, he's talking to the other guy who commented. No, I was not crying. No, I did not want Rippaverse to save me. I was never in trouble, in a spot to be saved to begin with, because I literally just started doing comics, printing them, or making full-blown comic stories back in late 2023, early 24.
No, just kidding. Okay, thank you. All right. Say what? I was like, okay, cool. You know, I don't want to say things that never happen. You know. So.
Thank you,
To be
Liam.
manga. It's
Thank
trying
you.
so hard.
I'm so glad
to be manga. It looks like
you
It
say
is manga.
things. You don't say
Like, this is the
things
thing
that
that bothers
never
me.
happen.
Everyone acts like manga is the separate fucking thing. It's just comic. It's literally just the word comic in Japanese. And I've worked with the Japanese, and this elite, like, oh, manga's.
They are different things. They have different ways of doing things. That they are subgenres of the same genre of media.
A certain look, a certain style. Manga's doing this, manga's doing that. You're an idiot.
And not
Anyone
even
who thinks
genre.
different is an
It's
idiot.
more like art.
It's literally just a different art style.
form?
There's a few different cultural little things, but it's just comics. Like the Japanese don't look at it the way the Westerners do. Like there's this whole Western culture about like manga supremacy.
That makes it different. This guy is just a
kind of
walking
character like
contradiction,
manga,
bro. What in the world?
about it. Everything about trying so hard to be Japanese, to be this.
It's Australian.
I'm talking about the art and presentation. It's
It's Australian,
Japanese.
And it seems like Liam tried so hard to do that he forgot to actually make the story compelling and interesting. Because at the end of
You've been talking about this for 30 minutes and missed all the subtext.
of Puppet, the last thing
No,
I
I
reviewed,
didn't. I got all the subtext.
despite being
I
a
found it
little
not
let
enjoying.
down by the ending, I want to know more. I want to know more about, like, what her powers are, how, why she was chosen to be given powers and be revived in the first place, what this mysterious black creature with the yellow eyes is, like all of that. Like, I'm very interested in all that. I want to find out more. This, I don't really care, and it's because the characters, while the personalities were well established, the actual motivations and the character attachments, I don't really feel anything with. Even these two, who are, like, supposed to be like brother and sister, I still didn't really find myself getting attached to it, because it didn't really feel like they shared a emotional connection. Not even whenever they were talking about the mentor that died. And in fact, I can't even remember the mentor's name off the top of my head. That's why I've been calling him the mentor.
It's probably a better way of doing it, because his name is Rob Arnold.
The attachment thing, like, they say things to each other. They talk to each other, but the way the emotions are conveyed through the drawings and through the verbiage, I don't feel the connection. You know what I mean?
And he is using the name of Lloyd Sortel. So I should probably call him the
potential for this, and maybe with, like, volume 2, maybe it answers a couple of things. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, after reading this, I'm not really interested. I'm not really, like, I don't really care to read another volume of it, because there's nothing really gripping me. I mean, the cliffhanger for this is that the old guy was killed, and I guess they're gonna go figure it out. But I don't necessarily care about the old guy. I don't care that he died. I don't really feel bad that he died, because he seems like a real jerk.
Hey, he took in 2 kids from certain death, sheltered them, protected them, and admittedly turned them into child soldiers.
Yeah, turned them into child soldiers. I wasn't even going to mention that, but turned them into child soldiers and then acts like a jerk in the comic. Yeah, I should care about this guy. I should feel sad when this guy dies.
Yeah, didn't know you were like that. I guess
if he was written as a villain, people would be like, "Oh, good, he's dead." If you changed nothing about him but just made him a villain, they would be like, "Oh, yay, he's dead."
He was taken into abuser in your mind. I might have been a great scientist. He might have accomplished great things, but he's not a great parent. He's not a great. Fit him into a scarecrow at such a young age. We're back. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna shut up and let him play through, because I'm actually fucking. I was meant to be.
Care about these characters and their well-being, but not really. Like, it's just it feels very surface level. It feels very like this is like these characters are written the way they are because they're written the way they are in manga. And
that's not the case at all. There aren't very many characters written like this in manga at all. Actually, I don't.
Good. I'm being a little more openly negative here, but that's because you decided to make this video.
There's anyone that really has Jack's personality or Scarlett's personality. What do you guys think? Honest.
Also, no, there's tons of characters with the personalities. That's not what I was saying. Good that they're not written like. There's tons of characters that have this angsty personality. There's tons of characters that have this, like, almost carefree, bubbly personality that Scarlett has.
Opinions in the chat. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Did you think that these characters that we've now been talking about for the last 2 hours?
Well, of course, the chat's going to say yes.
And the things that made my childhood really awesome. So, that
this is a story about things that makes people's childhood terrible. It's a story of abuse. It's a story of neglect. It's a story of objectification. It's a story of well-intentions going awry. It's a story of war. It's a story of loss.
Still don't care about Rob dying.
At its fundamental core about self-governance. And what you need to do and who you need to be someone who self-governs. And it's about dysfunctional family.
Oh, yeah, I know he's probably going to respond to this. And I'm not going to do a response back.
You don't always get to pick your family,
I'm not going to do a response back, at least
maybe
not on
it's a
this
story
channel.
for kids that grew up in foster
if I get
care
invited
or
on FFS and they ask me
had
about
difficult
it,
relationships, and maybe this guy's just someone who's very lucky to have a healthy, relationship with his parents, and so can't relate to what it's like to be in a relationship, a familiar relationship with a drug addict or an alcoholic or someone that survived war.
Do I even mention this? Do I even have to make a response to this? Like, should I even do it? I'll say this. There was a time where I had a very bad relationship with my dad. The last time I talked with him for a while, for about a year, the last time it was on bad terms. I was very mad. I was very angry at him. I'm not going to say what it is. I've probably said it in the past on a stream before. But there was a time where I didn't have a good relationship with him. And after, like, I won't go into the whole story. But after a year, I finally contacted them, and now we're great. We're in a great relationship. And to act like because I didn't like this story, I must not have had any challenges or any bad relationships in my life or bad moments in relationships in my life is completely narcissistic. It is completely just unhinged to think that I must have the perfect life ever, that I have no struggles whatsoever because I didn't like your story about personal struggles or whatever. No, you just wrote it bad, Liam. You just wrote the characters bad. You have a good world here. You've got some good art here. You've got some decent character designs and stuff like that. Some of them may be a little generic, but I'm not being overly critical of that. I'm just mainly talking about how the characters have no attachment. They have no attachment to me. They don't display the right emotions for the scenes. The scenes don't make me care about the characters because they don't have the actual sustenance for me to actually care about them. It doesn't give me a reason to care about the old man, Rob. It doesn't give me to care that he dies, to be sad that he dies, right? Not in like a, oh no, I feel so bad for the characters. I actually felt good for the characters that he died. If anything, I didn't feel much of anything, but if I had to, I would probably say good. But then you've got the characters have a very weak reaction to his death. They have a weak reaction to everything. It's like it's the same thing that people have problems with the acolyte actress who has like the same facial expression in every single scene. I have the same sort of feeling with that, but instead of facial expressions, it's emotional reactions and their dialogue. I don't feel anything. For you to say that I've never gone through anything because I didn't like your story is ridiculously stupid. Possibly one of the dumbest things you've ever said, Liam. But anyway, I've been streaming for almost 2 hours now. I think he's pretty much done at this point. If there's something more like somehow worse that he says about me after this, I don't know. Let me skim through. What does he point to me or anything? Does he start saying my comic is garbage? I don't think he says that. Which, I mean, like, that's fine. If you want to say my comic's garbage, totally fine. Do it. I don't care. If you have, like, genuine criticism to give, I'll listen to you. If you're just going to call it garbage like Frog Tony, I don't care what you have to say because you're irrelevant. To me, you're irrelevant because you don't have any, like, actual good criticism. I gave Liam good faith criticism. And did I understand everything in this comic perfectly? No. I got some things wrong. I can admit whenever I get something wrong, okay? But when it comes to actually making criticisms, the criticisms that I made in this comic are fair and valid. And everyone knows it, except for you and whatever fans you have left that are just sniffing the leam. Sniffing out that line of leam. Snorting it right up their nose. Anyways, thanks so much for watching the stream, guys. I'm going to get something to eat because I'm hungry. And until next time, stay tuned for Lil Miss Steel. You know what? I might as well say this. I've been in kind of an art block with Lil Miss Steel lately. I went hard on Volume 6. I finished Volume 6 in 2 months, which is the fastest I've ever done a comic ever. And I was so excited to get that out. I went so hard with it to where now, like, I've had like a pretty big art block with Lil Miss Steel. I've been drawing other stuff, including stuff on Indie Comics Empire, and I've still been drawing and doing stuff, but I just haven't been doing Lil Miss Steel as much. And that's my bad. That's my fault. And I'll admit that, you know, that's my bad. I said I would bring this comic to you in March. I'm going to have to push it back to April. I'm going to have to push it back to April because I will not rush to get something out and make it sloppy. I want to make it look good. So go to Mike Wheeler's stream in 20 minutes. Okay, hold on. I think it's just called War Campaign, right? Campaign. Oh, of course, War Campaign's not going to pull up anything. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me open my Twitter real quick. Oh, someone else made a tweet about about Liam. Why is he like this? Let me go to Mike Wheeler. He usually makes a tweet whenever he goes live. Yeah, okay, there it is. Set Frog Tony. Oh, wait. Oh, go to my white. Oh, go to Mike Wheeler's stream in 20 minutes. I thought you meant at the 20-minute mark. Okay. Well, tell you what. I'll go ahead and end the stream. Sorry for having to delay Lil Miss Steel Volume 7 to April, but I have to do it. I have to make sure the quality is actually good. I don't want to just fart something out and make you guys smell it. If it's going to be a fart, I want it to be a real good one. I want it to be a real ripe one. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to stick with you for a while. Not something that's just, ugh, and then you just walk away and forget about it. It's got to be a good one. Why did I say that? Anyway, thanks so much for watching.